King Solomon is one of the most prominent kings in history, known for his incredible prosperity and immense wealth. In addition to succeeding his father, King David, to the throne of Israel, he stands out for his exceptional wisdom and extraordinary works, such as the construction of the first temple of Jerusalem. Although not mentioned in the Bible until the later days of David, Solomon's name appears about 300 times in the Old Testament and at least 12 times in the New Testament. He is also mentioned in other non-biblical writings and is involved in Jewish legends, some of which are related to mystical and obscure practices. In this video, you will discover the true story of Solomon according to the Bible and the last days of King Solomon's life. Subscribe to the channel and leave your like to help us spread this message to more people. King Solomon, son of David and Bathsheba, was born during David's reign in Jerusalem. In the Bible, he is also known as Jedediah, which means beloved of the Lord. Solomon ruled Israel for about 40 years, approximately between 971 and 931 BC. Regarding his childhood and youth, there is little information, but considering the biblical accounts of David's family, we can get an idea of the environment in which Solomon grew up. David had several wives, which caused conflicts among them and their children, who competed for prestige and power. Solomon himself is mentioned amidst these tensions, as there was a dispute for the throne of Israel due to David's old age and frailty. First, Absalom, Solomon's half-brother, attempted to usurp the throne, without success. Years later, Adonijah, another surviving son of David, followed the same path, relying on the support of Joab, David's former general, and the priest Abiathar. Adonijah even held a coronation feast, but when his plan was discovered, Bathsheba, the prophet Nathan, Abiathar, and other allies worked to remind David of the promise that Solomon would be his successor. Thus, Solomon was crowned king of Israel and anointed by Zadok. Solomon was probably only 18 years old at the time of his coronation. Solomon's reign lasted for 4 decades, amid scholarly debates about whether he reigned from approximately 971 to 931 BC or from 960 to 920 BC, with the former being more likely. After the death of his father, David, Solomon acted to consolidate his power, ordering the death of Adonijah and Joab, and the banishment of Abiathar, thus ensuring his reign without internal opposition. He inherited a vast territory from David, about 128,000 square kilometers, and significantly improved the domestic conditions of Israel. Solomon reorganized the territory into 12 administrative districts, each with an official appointed by the king to ensure the supply of food for the court throughout the year. The list of daily provisions was extensive, including fine flour, cattle, and a variety of animals for consumption. In terms of military aspect, Solomon introduced battle chariots and cavalry into his army, as well as improving roads and establishing border fortresses to protect trade routes. He controlled trade routes and established lucrative trade agreements, making silver as common as stone and cedar in his kingdom. Solomon was a skilled diplomat, keeping Israel free from foreign military threats during his reign. He established trade agreements with the king of Tyre, Egypt, and exported horses and chariots to the Hittites and Syrians. His maritime trade, which included voyages to Ophir, brought exceptional annual revenue, solidifying his position as one of the wealthiest men in history. Among all the monumental constructions erected during King Solomon's reign, the temple in Jerusalem certainly stands out as the most important. According to divine promise, Solomon executed his father's project to build a temple to house the Ark of the Covenant. To obtain the necessary workforce, he resorted to forced labor, mainly from the Canaanite people subjugated by Israel. However, the number of Canaanite workers was not sufficient for his plans, so he also recruited Israelites, forcing them into forced labor. This measure, though unpopular, was evidenced in the episode of the death of Adoniram, the superintendent of the labor groups. The temple, situated on Mount Moriah, where David had built an altar to the Lord, was constructed with valuable materials, such as tons of gold and noble woods. Although modest by today's standards, the temple represented a grand endeavor for the time. When completed, Solomon organized a great dedication celebration, with many sacrifices offered. In addition to the temple, Solomon erected other notable buildings in Israel, such as the House of the Forest of Lebanon, an impressive columned portico, a throne room, and a house for the daughter of the Pharaoh of Egypt, one of his wives. His own residence, where he housed 700 wives and 300 concubines, along with the necessary servants, was also a considerable construction. Additionally, Solomon built the Millo, a massive fortress to protect the temple. We know that King Solomon, besides being known for his immense wealth, was also recognized for his wisdom. In the Bible, we find the account of the dream where the Lord appeared to him, offering him any wish. Solomon could have chosen riches, longevity, or honor, but he opted for wisdom, asking for an understanding heart to govern his people with prudence. One of the most famous episodes demonstrating Solomon's wisdom is the one where two mothers disputed the maternity of a baby. With no witnesses, Solomon proposed splitting the baby in half, but the true mother chose to give up the child to save it, thus showing her true motherhood. Additionally, Solomon was a prolific writer, composing thousands of proverbs and songs that impressed all who heard them. His wisdom was so renowned that it attracted visitors from all corners of the world, including the Queen of Sheba, who came to test his wisdom with questions and riddles, being impressed by his answers. However, despite his wisdom, Solomon made grave mistakes, such as subjecting his people to forced labor, allowing idolatry to enter Israel, and practicing intense polygamy. Despite his contributions to Israel, Solomon faced consequences for his sins, including threats from enemies and the division of the kingdom after his death. Although he ended his life in a melancholic manner, his legacy as the builder of the temple and exponent of Hebrew wisdom literature remains. While there are legends and fanciful writings about Solomon, what we know reliably is what is recorded in the Bible. However, it is important to understand that all of Solomon's earthly glory is transient compared to the eternal kingdom of the Messiah. Now, if you've watched up to this point, write in the comments what you think about Solomon's story, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel here if you haven't already, and leave your like to help us spread this message around the world.